It is exactly 3 days after the breakup. You are sitting on the cold edge of a bathtub near midnight, staring at a half-typed message you swore you would never write. The strange thing about this impulse is how perfectly reasonable it seems. It arrives dressed in decency. You tell yourself that offering one warm sentence so things end on a good note is simply the mature thing to do. Why does this overwhelming, undeniable sense of clarity reliably strike at this exact moment? Why is your mind relatively quiet in the afternoon, only for this heavy, physical pull to rise near midnight, 72 hours in? It is deeply tempting to look at your shaking hands and see proof that the two of you belong together, or perhaps evidence that you lack the willpower to let go. Longing that runs on a clock isn't a message about them. It's chemistry doing exactly what chemistry does. On the timetable chemistry keeps. To understand what is happening inside your nervous system, look at a 2010 study conducted by biological anthropologist Helen Fisher. Fisher's team took 15 people who were freshly rejected by their partners and placed them into an MRI scanner. While measuring their brain activity, the researchers showed each participant a photograph of the specific person who had walked away. These bright yellow and green flares aren't in the soft, emotional areas of the brain. They're entirely concentrated in the ventral tegmental area and nucleus accumbens, your deep reward and craving machinery. These exact same neural circuits fired during cocaine withdrawal. This explains the 72-hour mark. During the first 2 days, your body coasts on the adrenaline and denial of the initial shock. By night 3, the anesthetic wears thin, and the nervous system fully registers that its chemical supply is completely overdue. The unbearable pain you feel at midnight is not a sign that your spirit is broken. Your mind is simply entering full-body chemical withdrawal. If this is a raw chemical craving, why does it rarely feel like an addiction? Why does it arrive feeling like a generous, logical idea? Look at this flowchart of protest behavior. When an anxiously wired attachment system loses its bond, it tries anything to close the gap. It takes a raw craving, runs it through a cognitive filter, and outputs a thoughtful-sounding message, like just checking in. The brain does this because it is clever. A raw impulse to beg for attention would trigger your conscious mind to immediately shut it down. By dressing the reaching out impulse in the language of closure, it bypasses your defenses. The most reasonable-sounding idea in the room is often the exact same chemical craving, operating with better manners and a nicer vocabulary. This creates a disastrous gap. To you, the sender, typing that message feels gentle and kingering, but to the avoidant receiver on the other end, it lands as pressure. It feels like the exact boundary-breaking behavior that caused them to ask for space in the first place. Giving in carries a biological penalty. Reaching out provides no relief and doesn't soften the grief. This graph tracks a craving over time. Notice how the attachment circuitry naturally cools down on its own, but the exact moment you make contact, the clock resets. The craving spikes back to its maximum peak. Reaching out for a temporary hit of relief actually buys you weeks of extended, unnecessary withdrawal. Relying on willpower to stop yourself at midnight fails for a specific anatomical reason. By the time the urge peaks, your prefrontal cortex, the logical, forward-thinking part of your brain, is completely flooded and offline. The solution is a psychological tool called an implementation intention. This is a concrete if-and plan you write down during the daylight hours when your mind is calm, clear, and fully operational. You build a strict rescue route. If the urge hits, you immediately put the phone down, run your wrists under cold water, and text a pre-agreed code word to your closest friend. This animation illustrates the mechanics of neuroplasticity. The brain ruthlessly prunes neural pathways that are no longer being walked. When you actively choose the new path, the old, glowing connection between your ex and your reward system begins to thin out and lose its grip. The intense physical wave of a craving truly only lasts about 90 seconds at full height. If you let it wash over you without acting, it will break and it will fall. The mere absence of action, simply refusing to hit send, triggers profound neurological rewiring. The urge to reach out is a symptom on a timeline. It is not a referendum on your worth, your strength, or your ability to move forward. Holding on the hardest at the exact moment you are asked to let go is exactly how a loyal nervous system learns to love. You did not love incorrectly. Surviving the third night without reaching out is not a betrayal of that past love. It is simply the very first time you are choosing to hand your fierce, loyal nervous system something steady to hold on to: yourself.